I'm sure by now you've probably, heard of the supply shock, right? We've been hearing a lot of things about supply shock, supply shock, supply shock. One thing that I really look at in this space is the narratives around Bitcoin, right? Because we know that Bitcoin is a scarce asset. This is very clear. It's always been clear. Everyone has always reminded us of this, especially Bitcoin maxis. One thing that I will say right now, I want everyone to understand what is really happening to the space. It's not happening all at once, but it's slowly starting to morph into reality. And what is that? Well, I'm going to answer that real quick, but first I have to say, welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. And also, if you guys haven't already joined the free Discord, what are you guys waiting for? Almost 10,000 members are in that Discord. You guys won't regret it. It is one of the best Discords around crypto. So join up, you won't regret it. And with that being said, let's answer the question. What are we starting to see with crypto? Well, we are starting to see the big push away from speculation, from hype, from all the nonsense to legitimization, institutionalization, and even utilization of this technology. Now, I saw this post and it says 2025 demand shocks will spike Bitcoin's price. This is coming from Signum, but we also got this one as well, which was Bitcoin demand shocks looming, Ripple stablecoin, and more. Hodler's Digest, December 8th through the 14th. Now, this was JP Morgan raises price targets on Bitcoin mining stocks. We also saw, the New York regulator obviously approved Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin. And then we saw Bitwise predicts 2025 as a year for crypto IPO, Kraken Circle to go public. It feels like we're kind of nearing that point in time where we're seeing a very big push on crypto. I mean, everyone is looking at crypto at this point because we are in the middle of a bull run. Alt season is essentially starting. So if we're thinking about this, yeah, all the big players are out and about talking about crypto, talking about how, crypto is going to go here, go there. The supply shocks, Bitcoin's going to $1 million, all this crazy talk. But one thing that I'm really kind of looking at is the institutional side of things. Like I look at Pantera, for example. Pantera is a company that's not looked at quite a bit in the space, but it needs to be addressed. Going all the way back to 2013, Pantera has invested in digital assets and blockchain companies, providing investors with the full spectrum of exposure to the space. That's exactly from Pantera, and this is the first U.S. institutional asset manager focused exclusively on blockchain technology. And I actually think that this is probably going to be a very big thing going forward as well. I think that as we really look at crypto, as we look at blockchain technology, it's only becoming a much larger piece of the traditional financial world. I mean, we already have BlackRock here. We already have Fidelity here. We already have a lot of the Wall Street giants here as well. And I feel like it's only going to grow much bigger and bigger and bigger from here on out. If we actually look at Pantera Capital, going all the way back to 2003 when they were first founded, they quickly morphed into a blockchain-based player, right? Like, for example, we could see the blockchain history on the left, but we could see the Pantera history on the right. For example, 2009, the first Bitcoin block known as Genesis block is mined, and by 2013, Pantera Bitcoin Fund launches as first cryptocurrency fund in the US. And then they also had the Pantera Venture Fund 1, which is the first blockchain-only venture fund. By that point, 2014, you can see the whole history of this. But why am I talking about Pantera? Why am I bringing up Pantera? Why am I putting a big spotlight on them? Well, I want to show you guys just how significant Pantera is. They've been around for a very long time. They are a legit player in the blockchain space. They have witnessed everything from essentially the beginning. And over here, we actually have from billionaire Dan Morehead discloses Pantera Capital holdings in altcoins. Ton, Solana, and even Ondo. But check this out.
Yeah, so the fun bit about crypto is we've been doing this for 11 years, and Bitcoin's almost gone a little bit more than doubled this year. And so everyone's talking about, isn't that wild, it doubled? On average, it's done that for 11 years in a row, right? So crypto going up double is not remarkable, actually. And so we're normally long because we think the markets are going to go up, another huge amount, like another order of magnitude possibly. So we're typically long. We're always just looking at which other tokens are interesting. We have a big position in TON, Telegram's token, Solana, Ondo. Those are some of ours. Yes.
So they are predicting that, crypto is going to continue to go up. Things are going to continue to really, just surge in value. And, he's not wrong. I mean, over time, he's been around this space for over 11 years, right? He is aware of how this space continues to grow, cycle over cycle. It is a space that's just right now we're thinking about these gains and we're always looking at the big cycles, the bull and bear cycles. What the bull and the bear cycles really rely on is just liquidity, right? It's just riding the waves of the liquidity cycles. But what happens when the space is actually moving by utility, right? What's going to be the big driver at that current point in time when it comes to utility? Well, it's going to be the efficiencies of these networks and the efficiencies that they unlock around these traditional markets, around these traditional industries. Now, one of the reasons why I do believe that Dan is so bullish is because of what is happening right now within the US. For an example, we go over here. CNBC put this out, just around like roughly yesterday or so. XRP is the biggest winner of the Trump trade, but investors are split on how far its rally can run. Now, this is actually stuck behind a paywall, but Cowboy Crypto did kind of break this down a little bit. He said this is an excerpt from CNBC article where Galaxy Digital calls XRP a blast from the past. Oddly enough, yesterday, Galaxy Digital announced that they just hired ex-JP Morgan director Tony Paquette as their CFO. Now, if we actually look at this, we have I've never been a big fan of XRP, the asset, said Alex Thorne, head of research at Galaxy Digital, who called XRP today no more than a blast from the past. I mean, what exactly is Bitcoin? I mean, it's kind of comical, but regardless, we know that there is a big divide. We know that a lot of these discussions and a lot of the things that we do here around this space, especially when it comes to XRP, it's biased opinions. It's very biased opinions. But I bring this up because, XRP has been one of the biggest winners around the Trump trade. And why is that? And why is Dan, so bullish on this space, especially going forward? I mean, listen, if 2025 is going to be a massive year for crypto, why is that? Well, it's because of the legitimization of the space. We know that the Trump admin has been very pro, utility, pro crypto, pro innovation. They're not looking at meme coins. They're not looking at, speculative cycles. No. They see the value behind the tech. They want to adopt the tech. They understand how important it is to be behind this space, essentially. Now, I want to go over here. Now, I made a post. I'm not going to read all of this, but I made it back in August. Okay? It was back in August, and it was regarding regulations, because I want to go back to that initial article, which said 2025 demand shocks will spike Bitcoin's price. So they're saying that the demand for Bitcoin is obviously going to grow significantly, and because of, how much supply of Bitcoin there is, it's going to cause a big spike in the price. It's basically a supply shock. That's basically what that is. But I said back in August, I said, if we're really looking at what's going on here, with proper regulatory clarity, the floodgates are officially open. The light turns green and utility projects will race to the throne. Number one spot. A new king will be crowned, and it definitely won't be Bitcoin or Ethereum, and most fail to accept that. Because if we're thinking about tokenizing trillions, if we're thinking about, transactional use cases, Bitcoin and Ethereum are not viable solutions for that. I keep saying that once regulations hit this space, we get the green light in a massive way. I bring this up and I bring Pantera Capital up, not because of what Dan is saying, because Dan is the one behind Pantera Capital. I bring this up because of what's happening. Big shout out to Smoke Dog for this. We have, yes, institutions are predicting that by the end of 2025, 100% of the world's leading financial institutions will have all approved crypto legislation, including the US. This is why 2025 will be the monumental year for crypto. Global regulatory clarity for the first time. And here we actually have it. We predict that by the end of 2025, 100% of the world's leading financial centers will have drafted and approved at least some pro-innovation, pro-blockchain, and crypto legislation. The laggard has been the US, and by the end of 2025, we predict that this will have been resolved. And this is because of the pro-crypto admin that's coming into office. And also over here, we have regulatory clarity on the horizon. This will lead to a sustained period of growth in crypto prices. For years, the story of institutional adoption of digital assets, has been ahead of actual adoption data. That has now changed. Regulatory advancements such as the introduction of spot ETFs have paved the way for wider adoption. At Galaxy, we believe strongly that further regulatory clarity is on the horizon and that a sustained period of institutional adoption will follow. And then also, big shout out to Mr. Man, XRP. Through this regulatory clarity, demand shocks will increase. So far, only a small number of large institutions like pension funds have invested in crypto assets. When regulations are here, you'll see that demand increase. You'll be glad you're in early. This happens in 2025. And yes, everything is aligning for 2025. There's going to be a lot of demand shocks. In my opinion, with regulations, okay, we are going to see the biggest players dive into the space. And you know what's crazy? A lot of them have already been preparing with names like Ripple. So when we think about demand shocks, when we think about supply shocks, is it crazy to assume that XRP could very well have a supply shock tied to it? In fact, just the other day, I saw a post come up on my timeline saying that only about 39 billion XRP is left for transactional use cases, the payment use cases. A lot of people think that 39 billion is a lot. But when we're thinking about how much money is out there, how much money will be tokenized on chain, how much money the retail sector will be, utilizing, how much XRP the retail sector is going to be holding, you got to remember what percentage of the world is even holding XRP. A supply shock is 100% possible for XRP, especially once utilization kicks in. And I also bring up this post here from Smoke Dog as well. The biggest demand drivers for crypto still aren't buying. Despite the crypto volatility over the last month, wirehouse and bank wealth management platforms like Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, UBS, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs are still sitting on the sidelines. Right now, most of these platforms aren't allocating to crypto for their clients. Morgan Stanley is one of the few with limited exposure, but the rest haven't even started. The recent price action has been driven largely by high net worth individuals and a small portion, 8% of hedge funds, as shown in the data below. Meanwhile, the most systemically important banks, which control trillions of dollars in assets, are completely absent from the market right now. When they step in next year, the real bull market begins. And here you actually have that full breakdown of those names that have yet to even touch this space. And even over here, we can see the percentages in terms of the aggregate spot ETFs from Q3 of this year. It's actually insane to me that people are still talking about a supply shock or a demand shock for Bitcoin when all we are actually seeing for Bitcoin is not utilization of the network. All we are seeing is buying volume from the ETFs and from the retail sector and some high net worth individuals and some of these corporations. When we're looking at XRP, okay, I even look at HBAR, right? XRP, HBAR, XLM, all of these utility projects. Take a step back real quick, okay? If we're talking about Bitcoin having a supply shock or a demand shock, and we're thinking about these higher prices that are going to be created from just buying demand, all right, you now have these utility projects that we have enterprises, we have these big banks, these institutions tied to. They want to utilize them for payments. They want to utilize them for institutional DeFi. Okay, and then you mix in tokenization. So you have trillions of dollars potentially flooding on chain that are not just going to sit there. They're going to be traded 24/7, 365, swapped, bought, and sold. Then you also have yield generation from them as well. Like, are we really looking at this in the same perspective as, all right, well, yeah, Bitcoin's going to have a demand or a supply shock because of just buying demand. And then we look at these utility projects and people are thinking that there's way too much of them because XRP has, 100 billion total supply, which, since then, a lot has been burned through transactions. So it's less than 100 billion, but you get the point, right? Like everyone's looking at 100 billion and they're like, that's way too much XRP or HBAR with, 50 billion. Oh, that's way too much HBAR. It's not. When you mix in enterprises, corporations, institutions, retail, and then these use cases that are going to utilize large percentages of the supply, there's technically not enough supply, which means, guess what? We are going to witness a supply shock. It might not happen this year. It might not happen next year. But with all of these big players basically getting the green light through regulations, that's the start. That is the beginning of the supply shock, which means, guess what? The prices have to be significantly higher. That's why these institutional investors, that's why these institutional platforms like Pantera are so bullish on this space. They have been here for well over 11 years. They see how much adoption has happened in that 11 years. And from here on out, it's only going to snowball in a much larger way. When we think about projects like XRP and the XRPL, I get very bullish, not because of what Ripple's doing, not because of the price going up, but because of the path forward for this technology. This technology will become a much larger piece of the overall global system. And I don't think people realize what's really going on here. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.